Hey, Tyler here, the Cash Flow Guys podcast. I wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you about my upcoming Mailbox Money Mastermind. We just finished our first session. The students did very, very well. Many are on their way to financial freedom. I'm proud of all of them. Now we're getting ready to open up the second edition, second class of the Mailbox Money Mastermind. And I want to take a minute to go over with you what we covered in the last one and what the students got from that. First of all, it started with mindset. You know, one of the number one reasons that real estate investors fail is their mindset's not right. You see, a lot of times we live as investors in scarcity mindset. It's not a place to be. So I teach you how to overcome that, how to shift your mindset into that of abundance. When you're thinking in abundance, you learn to look at opportunity a different way. You learn to look at problems a different way. And when you can find abundance in problems, that's a beautiful thing. In the second module, I talk about taking personal and financial inventory. Looking deep at thinking about what you're good at, focusing on your strengths and identifying your weaknesses. And then I'm going to help you take those weaknesses and eventually turn those into strengths. Here's the thing. No investor can do it all. I know there's some of you out there that think you can. I can flip these houses all by myself. I don't need anybody's help. I'll do all the work. I'll save money. Not going to work. Okay. You're going to fail or you're not going to scale. Either way, you're going to be right back to where you started eventually. Here's what I've learned. I've been doing this 18 years. I realized that if you don't have the right mindset, and you don't know what to do with the money that you could eventually earn, you're going to wind up right back to where you started, usually worse off. And nobody wants to be worse off than where they started. That said, Module 2 is where we're going to invest time in taking personal and financial inventory, critical part of the process. Module 3 talks about investor identity, and this is kind of where the rubber meets the road. A wise man once said, "A man who chases many rabbits catches none." Now, I've had students in the past that they come in and 1 minute they're looking at a mobile home park, and the next minute they're looking at a high-rise multifamily structure. The next minute they're looking at raw land. The reality of it is nothing wrong with poking around and looking at things early on, but at some point you have to identify what your investor identity is. Once you figure that out, and during this module, I'm going to help you down that path. No, I'm not going to convince you to do things Tyler's way. I'm going to help you discover your own investor identity. Because it's really not up to me to tell you what you should invest in. I'm going to give you the pros and cons of all the different types of assets and let you choose which one makes sense for you. Some of you, that may be single family houses. Others may choose apartment buildings. Some of you may want mobile home parks, raw land, commercial businesses, offices, restaurants, all kinds of different things. Maybe a short-term rental is something more up your alley. The bottom line is I'm going to help you go through that process so that you can rationalize what makes sense for you. Once you get that investor identity down pat, now you're going to be hyper focused on just that. So let's say, for example, you end up being a single family home person. For the first portion of this mastermind, or for the portion of this entire mastermind, we're going to keep you focused on only sourcing opportunities that relate to single family. Now, I know a lot of you are like, but Tyler, what if I see an apartment building, an office complex? Well, that's not within the expertise of you, number one, and it's not within the expertise of the team that you're going to build. Therefore, we're going to maybe figure out I'm going to show you ways to monetize that lead, turn it over to somebody who has the investor identity that matches that lead, okay? Just so we keep that straight. Now, networking is in Module 4. We're going to cover that. I know being a wallflower, a couch potato, however you want an introvert or recluse, however you want to structure it or say it, is tough. It's a challenge. And the reality of it is you're going to have to learn one of two things. Either you're going to have to learn how to effectively network, or you're going to have to be able to hire people to do it for you. Nothing wrong with hiring people to do it for you if you have the money to do that. If you don't, well, then you're going to have to learn how to do that, okay? But I'm going to give you some tips because, believe it or not, even though I have a big successful podcast and YouTube channel, I used to be an introvert. I didn't like getting up in front of crowds. Not really a fan of it still to this day, but I do it because it's necessary, and my why makes it happen for me. So I'm going to give you lots of tips and tricks. I'm going to coach you through that process to get you comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's the reality of things. Unfortunately, we have to learn to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. That said, we go into marketing. Now, notice I didn't say advertising. There is a big difference between advertising and marketing. There are people out there that are click here and do this, and I'll buy your house in 7 days. I teach relationship marketing. The beauty of relationship marketing is, one, it doesn't cost you a fortune. Two, it's highly effective. The ROI on relationship marketing is significantly higher than quote unquote advertising. I'm not going to teach you to be that person that sticks those nasty bandit signs out on the corners or to start blasting people with direct mail. Number one, to be successful in direct mail, you're probably going to have to invest thousands of dollars a month on a direct mail campaign to go at least 7 months to a year before it'll really start to get its ROI. If you're not in a position to spend that kind of money, then let's focus on relationship marketing, which, like I said, is far more successful and far more lucrative. Finding opportunity is where we move on to in Module 6. Finding opportunity is kind of where the rubber meets the road in regard to, as we say, finding deals. That's where we start to learn how to discover opportunity and start finding opportunity. Notice I say opportunity and not deals, because the reality of it is, folks, you're never going to find a deal. What you're going to find is an opportunity, and whether or not you can negotiate it or structure the deal to where it makes sense will really determine whether it becomes a deal or a nothing. Okay. I'm a big believer in owner financing and raising private capital. And during this module, we're going to talk a lot about that to get you in your mind in the frame to start thinking of things that way. In other words, understanding what your capital investors, which I will teach you how to find capital investors as well, what will teach what you need to learn so that you can check all the boxes for them, so that you can find opportunities that are going to match their investor identity. Critical part of the process. How can I keep this is the next section. That's module 7. That's where we get into deal structure. This is where we really start to put the pieces together, and we're figuring out, okay, who's going to do what and where is the money going to come from? Is it going to be seller equity? Are we taking payments for equity? Are we using the bank? Are we using private money, our own money, or a combination of all of those? This is where I don't believe in just going to the bank and whipping out your net worth and seeing what they qualify for. That's not what I believe in. I believe in, looking for seller financing, seeing if the owner will take payments for their equity. That's a process that's not as complex as you might think. And I teach you how to go through that process. I learned that from the master himself, Larry Harbold. He's authorized me to share that information with you, and I'm looking forward to doing that. In addition to that, I'm going to teach you how to raise private capital. I'm going to teach you how to help people either reduce or eliminate their tax bills by investing in your deal. How cool is that? Negotiations is in module 8. Probably of all the sections, I would say the second most important one of the entire mastermind is negotiations. This is where module 1, mindset, really comes into play. What you'll find is that as you are better in negotiation, you're going to accomplish a lot more. More importantly, you're also going to find is that negotiation was not as difficult as you thought it might be. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks and ways that you can talk to people having an easygoing conversation, not having to use any ninja tactics or Jedi mind tricks or anything like that. I don't want you out there having to feel like you have to trick people into doing business with you. That's never going to work for the long term. I teach you sustainable means of building wealth in real estate. By sustainable, I mean what I teach you now will work 30 years from now. Why? How do I know that? Well, because the same things I'm teaching you now are things that were taught to people like Larry Harbold and Peter Fortunato and a lot of other real estate legends, Jack Miller, people like that. Very practical, no nonsense ways of communicating with people, asking questions and getting the answers, then using those questions and, more importantly, those answers to get to the bottom line so that you can write offers that make sense to the seller, often that require no money out of your pocket. Okay, I'm going to teach you how to put private money investors, IRA lenders, in a deal with you so you don't have to bring the money. You're going to bring the knowledge and experience that I will give you during the mastermind to work along with people's IRAs or private capital. And don't worry, I'm not going to teach you how to beg for money, because nobody likes being begged for money. Nobody likes having to beg for money, so we're not going to go down that road. We're going to structure things so that people are coming to you wanting to invest money in your deals. That's how I've structured my business. I'm going to teach you how to do it the very same way. Module 9 is due diligence. There's one thing to put money in your pocket, but it's a whole other thing to keep it there. They say that you make your money when you buy, and there's nothing more truthful than that. That said, that's great, you made money, but now we have to make sure that money actually stays there. How we do that is good, solid due diligence. I am both a realtor, specializing in both. I work with both residential and commercial. I've got extensive experience in both sides of the table. I've served as both, been a commercial broker and a residential one. And I'm going to cover all sides of due diligence, beginning to end, everything you need to know to make sure that your deal, number one, closes on time. Number two, closes safely, and how to overcome the common issues that a lot of people run into, a lot of investors run into. And sometimes the title people, well, they just throw their hands up, or the attorney says, hey, I'll fix it for 10 grand. I'm going to help you come up with solutions to those problems. We're going to cover a lot of things that have already happened in the past and what we did to solve those problems, so you don't experience the same grief that I had to sitting at the closing table. Module 10 is actually about the closing process itself and then beyond. Well, it's great. You're here, you're at the closing table. That's not a lot of fanfare. You sign the paperwork, you go take your spouse out to dinner and have a great old time. Yay, we bought a rental property. But now what? Okay, we've got a property management hired, but what if they're terrible? What if the property isn't as profitable as we thought? What if the tenant acts cranky? How do we get the tenant out? All the things that would come up after closing are the things we're going to talk about in Module 10. Now, in that module is where we really start pushing you to start thinking outside the box, thinking about how am I going to make this investment better? Granted, we do a lot of that in finding opportunity and how can I keep this, but we're going to take that to the next level in Module 10. And then from there on out, the next 2 weeks is where we're really going to start practicing and focusing on getting better at negotiation, getting better at communicating with people, and getting better at finding opportunity. I really look forward to seeing you guys in this training. I hope that you can make it. We'll be kicking off here soon. So make sure you take any opportunities, any webinars we have come up, or anything like that we have to engage. If you have questions about the mastermind, don't hesitate to shoot me an email. That's Tyler@cashflowguys.com, Tyler@cashflowguys.com, or reach out to me through my website. Schedule a time, get on my calendar. Let's talk about it. Look forward to seeing you. Want to get you over the finish line. Thanks for having me.